Hello, I'm John, and welcome back to my series of videos on business resilience. Business resilience being our business's ability to withstand and recover in a changing business environment. Over the course of these videos, I'm going to look at different ways that you can improve your capacity to withstand change. And today we're going to focus on cash. Cash reserves. How much money is in your bank? Because I think it almost seems like common sense, but let's start with common sense in these videos and build it up. If you have money in your bank, you can throw money at a problem to make the problem go away. It doesn't necessarily make that the smart thing to do. And so that's why this is only one of the pillars. It's not as simple as saying, I've got loads of money, my business is resilient. I think that that's maybe an arrogant approach to business resilience. It's thinking that every problem can be solved with money. But I don't think that's the case. Sure, if you've got lots of money, problems seem to disappear. But would your business be able to recover if something terrible happened? It might take much longer to recover. This said, there are a lot of businesses that could do with improving their cash reserves to get business resilience that they don't currently have. So let's look at cash. Well, where does cash come from? Cash comes from our customers, and we'll look at customers in an entirely separate video, and we'll also look at suppliers in a separate video. So I'm going to leave a lot of the things around customer relationships until then, but let's just look at turning customers into cash. Well, often we invoice or we ask people to pay us money, and then we receive money. How long does it take for you to get money? How much of the money for work you have already completed is sat in your bank, and how much of it is still with your customers? Do you record this? Do you look at it? My suggestion is that it would be a good thing to do that. It's really easy. You can just write down how much money your customers owe you. And if you do this in your review sessions, now you remember in our last video I was talking about making a plan and then reviewing your plan. Well, maybe one of the things that you review in this plan is, how much money do my customers owe me? Am I okay with that? Is it about the right number, or is it too high or too low? Can it ever be too low? So look at how much is owed from your customers and then think, are there ways that I can get that number down, that I can get money from them into my bank? And in a lot of cases, certainly in the businesses that I come across, there are very reasonable things that we can do to get more money in our bank. And a lot of it comes down to giving some focus to getting money from our customers. If you've made an agreement with them, I will provide service or I will provide goods in exchange for money, and you have then provided those services or those goods, it's entirely reasonable to go to the people you have been working with and say, I provided the goods and you said you'd give me money. I need you to give me the money now. I have to say, in my business, to start with, I was very apologetic about it, and I would start by saying, I'm really sorry, but you haven't paid me for 2 months. And then after a couple of years, I kind of scratched my head over it and imagined, who said this to me? I can't remember who said it to me, but someone said, can you imagine going to a supermarket and buying your weekly shop? Well, taking your weekly shop, getting it home, consuming the goods, eating the food, and then 2 months later, the supermarket writing to you and saying, I'm really sorry, but you haven't paid me. It's not the language they would be using. In that circumstance, I think that they might be coming down on you quite heavily, but let's just take it back a step and say, I have just provided the service, can you please pay? I think this is much more reasonable than some people feel it is. And it's an amazingly easy way, if you can get over the idea of asking for money, it's a relatively easy way of getting more money in your bank. You have done the work. You want to move on to the next project because it's where the next bit of money can come from, but have you spent the time you need to spend getting the money in your bank? And I have to tell you that once you tell people, this is how I work, I do the work and then you pay me. I give you some time so that you can record the invoice in your system, but then you pay me. If you set up this system, I hope you will find, similar to how I have found, people get used to it very quickly. People come to expect that you will expect them to pay. And in my opinion, this is entirely reasonable. If they have a good reason to not pay you, then they can talk to you about that reason. They can talk to you about that reason before you do a whole load of work for them. And let's say you did job number 1 for a customer and the customer wasn't satisfied and so they didn't pay you. But then you went on to do job number 2 because you thought, I need to invoice more. And they're still not satisfied and they're still not planning to pay you. But because you haven't asked them, hey, can you pay me? They haven't come forward and said, I'm not happy with the service. You could easily be building a big problem for the future. Big problems for the future. This is taking us off of our plan. This is taking us away from our path. Our path is to make money, and these big problems are going to take us off that path. How can we build business resilience? Ask for the money sooner. Get the money in your bank, and you have reduced the risk of a big problem. You have improved the chances that you will stay on your path. You have increased your business resilience. I talk to you about customers a lot because this is something I find in a lot of our client businesses. This reluctance to talk about and to ask for money in a very reasonable way. However, this isn't the only thing that happens with money. Money comes into a bank and then money goes out of a bank. So let's talk about money going out. Let's talk about our suppliers. Personally, I think that if you are receiving money in a reasonable way and you're expecting to receive it, then it's also a great place to be, a healthy place to be, to also be paying people in a reasonable manner. If you've agreed terms with someone, stick to the terms. And I think that your business's resilience can be measured by how well you're sticking to your terms. Because if you're in a position where you are unable to stick to your terms because the cash just isn't in the bank, well, in my opinion, you have very little capacity to deal with problems if they come up. If there just isn't the money to pay the suppliers and one of your key suppliers says, hey, pay me today or I'm stopping service, and you're already a couple of months behind, you don't have anywhere to go. You don't have a reserve that you can use to pay them. And frankly, you probably have very little goodwill with them to keep that service going. So talking to your suppliers about money and getting to a position where you're paying people on time is a super way of improving business resilience. This isn't the only thing when it comes to purchases that we can look at though, and I'd like to talk to you briefly about stock days, stock holding days. Stock holding days is an accounting thing where we look at how many days of stock do we have on hand. Let's say that we buy and sell widgets and we sell 10 widgets a day, but we hold 100 widgets in our warehouse. Well, we have enough widgets there for the next 10 days. My question to you is that enough? Am I holding enough stock in my warehouse to fulfill future orders? But more importantly, and this is something we see quite often, am I holding too much stock? Do I have 1,000 days of widgets, even though I sell 10 a day? Could I afford to delay buying the next batch by a month? Run that stock down a bit, still have enough to provide to my customers, but build my cash reserve. Because then if something unexpected happens, something that's going to take us away from our path, we have money in the bank to help us deal with it. And as this video started, cash reserves are a fantastic way to solve a problem. If you can put money to a problem, you can make it go away a little bit quicker. You can snap back to your path. You can recover from a problem much more quickly. There's another place that cash tends to disappear to in the businesses that we see. And this is you. This is the director or the owner. Quite often we see the business's owner is taking money without really being aware of how much they are taking. Don't get me wrong, we're in business to make money and often we're in business to enjoy that money. If this is you, it seems right that you can make money and take it out the business. And I'm not questioning that. I'm questioning whether you know how much you have taken. I'd like to go back to our first video. I have a plan. I've stuck to my plan. I've reviewed how well I've stuck to my plan. I'd like to challenge you to do this with the money you take from your business. I'd like to challenge you to make a plan as to how much money you're going to take out. I'd like you to try and stick to it. I'd like you to review whether you did well or not. Let's say that you made a plan to take this much money, but you ended up taking loads more. When you review your plan, you can look at, was the plan wrong or did I overspend? And by answering that question, you can make your plan for the next month, and you can bring a whole load of awareness to where the money in your business is going. Because, as I've said already, more often than not, it's you guys. It's you guys who are taking the money without knowing that you're taking the money. When we see accounts to clients at the end of the year, one of the biggest surprises is often, how much did I spend? How much did I take? This number must be wrong. If this is you, make a plan, and then review whether you've stuck to it. This is all so important because it helps build your cash. Now, who's this important to? It's important to your business, but it will also help you with your credit score. And credit scores are very important if you need to get more cash at short notice. Because a bank or a lender will like to see a business that has cash. It's as simple as that. If you can demonstrate that you have cash and you have managed your cash reserves well, they will have more confidence in your ability to manage the money that they lend you. They will have more confidence in your ability to pay them back in the future. And so please don't think I need cash reserves when I have a problem. Think I need cash reserves all the time in case there is a problem. The question is how much? How much do we need? And this is something that you will need to think about with your business. You will know how big your wages bill is. You will know how many months will I need to pay if everything goes wrong. How much will I need to pay to my suppliers to make sure that everyone has received the money that I've already agreed that they will receive? How much do I need in the bank to feel comfortable about taking my salary? How much money do I need in reserve just in case the worst happens? And now for every business, the worst will be different and it will cost different. So I can't give you a number or even a percentage to answer this. It's something you will need to think about for your own business. But work out that number and think to myself, I know how much money I need in my bank. This takes us to the KPI, key performance indicator, for this video. Now, KPIs, I'm trying very hard not to go into the detailed accounting KPIs, and so these are ones I'm making up as I go. It doesn't mean that they're mine and no one else has used them, but they're maybe not the ones that are regularly used, but they're the ones that I think will be most helpful to you and your business. And I'd like to offer you two for this one. For, let's say, a more mature business, a bigger business that maybe has a board of directors and has lots of different moving parts, or for businesses like that, I think it's really important that you know your number. I know my cash reserve and I keep my cash reserve. And so for these businesses, the metric will be, this is my cash reserve. And then what you will be reporting or looking at is how far under or over your cash reserve you are. So that's the metric I'd like you to be looking at. But if this sounds a bit too accounting for you, I've got an idea that might help. My idea is, if you have a savings account, use it. Work out a cash reserve, a pot of money that you can put aside for a problem day. I was going to say a rainy day, but really I'm thinking more like a stormy day. You know how I was talking about a storm in that earlier video and the waves crashing against the wall? How much money do I need in that bank just in case a wave crashes over that wall and I need to recover? Put the money to one side in a savings account and leave it there. The metric I'd like you to record is how many days since I last had to dip into that money. How many days since I last had to dip into that money? Because if you're anything like me, you'll look at that money and on a day when things are tight, you will think, maybe I need to dip into that money today. Maybe I need to just dip into the cash reserve. I'd like you to be thinking, gosh, it's been 2 months or 3 months since I last dipped into my cash reserve. I really don't want to break that and go back to day zero. I'm going to find a way. What I'm trying to offer you is a way to train yourself to think, I'm going to keep that day for when the water floods over the wall. instead of thinking it as money that I can take if I need a bit more salary this month. Money that you think, I've run out of money for the taxes, I really need to find some money. I'll take it from the savings account. I want you to challenge yourself not to. I want you to challenge yourself to find other ways. And when you run out of money, can you look to your customers and improve the amount of time it takes for them to pay you? Can you look at your stock and think, I'm holding too much stock? So this is the KPI I'd suggest to you. How many days is it since we last dipped into our cash reserve? That's our video for today. I hope you found it useful, and I look forward to sharing with you some more ideas in our next video.